Years ago, my family came to this country and homesteaded and broke out the prairie sod that was here and found extremely rich ground, which was beautiful, raised wonderful crops, very hard work. However, the only way they could control the weeds was with tillage. And by doing this, we eroded the ground over generations. And sitting and working on the farms and watching our ground degrade, it was just very, very painful. And we were watching water erosion, dust erosion, and chemical erosion. Anytime you pull a piece of equipment over these hills, you watch your ground go downhill. Even when you're plowing uphill, it doesn't stay status quo. So my dream was to find a way to farm this ground without tillage, and because of modern herbicides, we can now do that. We no longer have to till to control the weeds. And with the cross slot drill, which the Wolfs and I, who I farmed with, we got together and found through research, and because Frank Wolf, Dan's youngest son, had been in a college class where he heard John Baker talk about the cross slot, and we found one, an old used one, managed to buy it, brought it home, and fell in love. It was not easy to get started. The newer technology is much easier to work with, but it was the answer to my dream. I now watch my land stay put, and not only are we controlling the land and are controlling weeds that used to be a pain to our, we used to have terrible trouble with Canadian thistles and morning glory especially. What a boon. We no longer have that problem. They are still out there, but they are not aggressive like they used to be. And speaking of economics, that's another thing we've found. With this type of farming, our bottom line has improved. It's not because we are getting necessarily more crop. Our winter crops have stayed about the same as they always were. Our spring crops have improved, and we are finding less disease. Other neighbors have diseases in their garbanzos. We do not know why, but our garbanzos don't have that disease. That's something that still needs to be figured out. I'm convinced it's the health of our soil. But back to my original premise, the bottom line has improved. Not greatly, but we don't use near the manpower, we don't use near the fuel, we have less equipment to maintain. I'm just totally pleased with this type of farming and very grateful that I found Dan, Ben, and Frank to work with, because without them I couldn't do it. We have been renting other no-tillage drills, and we're having trouble holding them up on our hillsides. They were not seeding correctly, and we weren't getting the depth control we needed. And we got into cross slot, and the first year was a challenge, but that was a lot of learning curve. We now are able to hold those drills up. We can use the same tractors we were farming with before. We didn't have to get huge tractors. And it is just working out very nicely. And I'm real pleased with the crops that I see growing out in those fields. One problem we do have, and it's a nice frustration, is all the neighbors are out harvesting right now. Our crops have more moisture. They're still green. It takes us longer. And it's hard to sit in the barnyard and the neighbors are going up and down the road.